Wouldn't you know it? Right before hitting that record button, the AC unit was nice and quiet. Everything here was nice and quiet. I thought, I'll do this now. Actually, the problem is I took a sip of my cocktail, uh, and uh, and that gave the AC unit time to kick off. So I promised more videos in the last video, and I figured while I'm sitting here, I'll make one that's kind of on my mind. So most of you who know me know that I'm no stranger to swinging a hammer, uh, sweating pipe, pulling wires. I'm fairly handy, I guess. And this is a great house because there's very little reason for me to be handy, and I like that. Um, One of the ways that I got where I am right now is by being handy for a long time. And a lot of folks watched that and saw that. They went, "Oh, Warner, that's so good. Oh, I'm so glad you could do these things." Oh, no, it sucks. It's a curse. Let me tell you. Uh, who's so much easier, so much simpler to just pay somebody to do these things. But anyway, here we are, and our townhouse is a lovely little townhouse, and it's for the most part everything works. There are a couple of that we can't figure out how to make the dryer work. You will understand that in a moment. Um, the refrigerator. I tried to hook the water line up to the refrigerator. That was a bit of a nightmare. In fact, what the heck? I'll tell you the story. So the refrigerator side by side's got ice maker and water supply, and the water out of the faucets here is a little warm. So I figured I would like the freezer to make ice for me, and I would like to be able to get cold water straight out of the refrigerator. So let me hook this up. And I slid the refrigerator back, and on the wall is a stub, is what it's called. So it's a half-inch copper pipe with a cap soldered onto it. I don't know. Okay, this is fine. I can work with this. I can cut the cap off. I can put a press to connect valve on there. Easy. It's really simple. You cut the cap off, sandpaper it down so it's nice and smooth, and this thing just slides right on top of it, and it gives you. There's no soldering. There's no crimping. There's no nothing. It just slides on, and it's watertight. Wonderful stuff. Thank you, Shark Bite. And not sponsoring this video yet. But so that's easy. And then I've got a valve and a compression fitting, and I can go. I figured from there to the refrigerator, everything's good. Uh, and we had struggled and struggled and struggled. We finally had gotten water hooked up, so we've got water to the house now. I'm kicking myself after the fact because boy, it would have been so simple before they turned the water on. But the water meter's just right outside, and I went there and I cranked the valve down. Everything's okay. Cranked the valve to shut the water meter off. It stopped ticking. It stopped running. I went to the house and I turned the water on, and it just wouldn't stop. It slowed, but I just couldn't get the water turned completely off. Oh well. I'll give it a try. I'll be quick. And you're going to hear this, and you're going to wonder how. Not only how did you manage to retire like this, how did you manage to survive this long? So I grabbed my angle grinder, which, if you don't know what an angle grinder is, this isn't cordless. This is plugged into the wall, and I've got a cutting wheel on it, and I figure I'm going to cut through the edge of that pipe as fast as I can, and I've got water flowing elsewhere to try and keep the water down, and and I didn't get shocked. I don't know how, but I didn't get shocked. And it cut mostly through, and then the cutting wheel started to spin rather than cut. Uh, and hell, and water's going everywhere. fine. I grab a pair of vice grips. I mostly through the pipe. I put it on there, work it back and forth a couple of times. Bing, the cap pops off. Everything seems to be good. I've already cleaned the stub out up prior to this. I take the push to connect valve, the shark bite. I put it on the pipe, and it's a tight fit, which is what you want. And I'm pushing, and it's not really going all the way on. And I figure it's because there's pressure coming the other way from the water. So I open up the valve, and now water's shooting up out of the valves. I'm trying to push this thing on, and I get it kind of on the pipe, and I shut the valve off, and it's dripping. Damn. So, so then, of course, I grab a hammer because that's what you need when you're doing plumbing. And to make the long story short, I wind up putting a kind of a block over the valve that I've got on there, and then whacking the block with the hammer and pushing the push to connect up onto the stub, and it's fine. It's fine. So, sketchy, yes. Messy, undoubtedly. Successful, yes. It did the job. The push to connect is on the stub out. There are no leaks, no drips, no nothing. That's all it's that. Hook it up to the refrigerator. That's a long story, and I'll spare you that. But I kind of hook it all up, and then open up the valve, and all of a sudden, water is just gushing out of the front of the refrigerator. So as far as I can tell, that ice maker and that water supply through the front door is just toast. It's just worthless. It's bad, and I'm thinking, oh crap. So I'm pleased that I've got that valve on the stub. It's not giving me the water through the refrigerator that I want, but it's available for the next refrigerator. And Patty and I haven't discussed this yet. We've got a jug of gallon jug of cold water in the fridge for when we want cold water. We got a couple of ice trays, and we're filling those up and then dumping them into the ice bucket. And then if you want ice, you can still go into the door, and that ice comes out. So there's a bit of a workaround for it, but see, otherwise the refrigerator is perfectly fine, and I don't want to spend that kind of money to fix something that's that negligible. So first world problems, right? Ice maker's not working, and water supply's not working in my refrigerator. Oh well. Our dryer isn't working, and I've done some dryer repair in the past because that's me. Uh, and this, I don't understand for the life of me, what's wrong with this thing. So we're in the tropics. I've put up clotheslines. So I'm sitting up here so those are as I look through the house, those are the two things that are kind of high on my list, and they're not that high on my list. It's a good house, and it's in good shape, and I really don't need to be doing all that much to it. Where it does need work is right here, and I'm up on the terrace. So when we bought the house, we saw through Google Earth, we could see which one was ours, and ours was the one with a nasty looking rooftop. And I figured, okay, that needs sweeping, it needs cleaning, which it did, but there were other issues kind of involved there. And the short of it is that whoever poured the concrete here should be shot slowly, if possible. This is one of the worst jobs of pouring concrete I've ever seen. There are 3 drains on this roof. All of them are high. So water stands in a number of low spots on this roof. And when you get dust and grit and whatnot in the air, and it settles on the rooftop, and it rains, and it settles on the rooftop, it all pools into these low spots, and you wind up with these big patches of just grit, of just dirt and grit. And so, what I'm going to do in the near future is pour self leveling concrete on this rooftop. And I want to do that, first of all, so that I can bring the rooftop up to the level of the drains. It would be better if I brought it up a little higher than the drains, but at least to the level of the drains. And then the rooftop also needs a elastomeric coating. It's like a very thick, heavy, protective paint that goes on the rooftop, and it'll seal it, and it'll protect it, and it'll last for the claim on the can is 10 years. It'll last for 10 years. It'll be great. But it needs to bond to that elastomeric coating needs to bond to the concrete, and so I need to fix it and then paint it. That's the plan. So I'll show you around the rooftop, and you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, I just got up, so let me turn around. So here's where I'm sitting and recording. Doorway into the house. I'm sue me. I grew up on a farm. Of course, I'm growing things. I've got tomatoes and peppers and let's see, basil, and I'm trying to grow some ginger in there and a handful. Oh, and culantro. If that comes in, I'll do a video on culantro itself. There is a sink there. This is where the bar will be. This is the view to the west. I'll walk over to here so you can see it. And that's the Caribbean right there. But this is the terrace, and there's my little Ryobi electric power washer. That thing's a beast. It's done a wonderful job. But this place was absolutely filthy. And so I've spent the last couple of days power washing it. And you can see where it's shiny there. Those are the low spots. And there's a low spot right by that door. And if I zero in here, you'll see, there we go, some of the cracking that's in the surface itself. Now, that's not a big deal. All of that's really superficial, and that elastomeric coating will handle it. There is, however, there's the wand here, so there's the high pressure hose. There is some flaking of the concrete. So there's some actual repair that needs to be done before the elastomeric coating goes. And for the most part, the repair is where the water pools the most. So not a tremendously big deal, but you'll see that the drains are actually a little high, and again, that's it's particularly frustrating. Bar stools and chairs for us there. Again, these I did not grow from seed like the other things. These are mostly citrus. There's a Persian lime, a Meyer lemon. There's a sweet lime, a grapefruit-ish tree. It's called a pomelo. The big guy here, a spindly fellow, is a guava. And it's a wonderful fruit. Oh my goodness. And then that fellow, of course, is a palm, coconut palm. That's a Filipino dwarf coconut palm. And sorry that it's dirty, but it's been cleaning. I've put a little bit of a clothesline up here, which just works wonders. So anyway, the next project for us is this rooftop terrace. And the first thing that we'll do is pour the self-leveling concrete. I figure about 20 bags of it ought to do the trick. Once we've got it flat, or preferably slightly sloped towards the drains, let it cure. We'll put the elastomeric coating on top of it, and it will be good to go. We'll start working on the bar, and I'll put a little pellet grill up here as well. So we'll have a rooftop bar and outdoor kitchen. So stay tuned for that. Okay, there's that lovely sunrise. And we've got one drain here. one drain. In the other corner, I've got a cap sitting on top of that. Looks like from this angle, I've got to adjust it, but I'll make sure that's exactly where it needs to be in a moment. And actually, there's the old jug of primer there as a weight just to keep it in place. And just scroll back around, you'll see where the water puddles before getting to the drain here. And then as we move over, the doorway actually is probably the lowest spot. So lots of water that puddles there, and then water that's been puddling here. And also didn't quite reach the drain. We've squeegeed the water out to reach that point. So I've got, looking into the sun, I've got our citrus and our new palm tree up and out of the way. And I've taken the table out. The chairs are all out. Table's just easier to put up at this point. And everything else is sort of up and out of the way. So we may give this a minute or two to dry, but we're going to want to work before the sun comes up too much, before it just simply gets too hot and makes what is already rapidly setting concrete set even more rapidly. All right. So the time-lapse video that you just saw there encompasses 3 hours of work. And while there's more to be done and more for you to see, I'm going to try and cut this video a little short because the next thing that I'm going to show you, somewhat unsuccessfully to be perfectly honest, is the wiring that I had to do up here. So that was really kind of the last of the videos in terms of working on on the concrete with the self-leveling concrete. And the reason for that is because what I had to do after that day's work is go back and fix some of it and then build upon it. And I did this in a somewhat piecemeal fashion. I'll explain that in a moment. But it also required some of the fixing of it, and then finishing of it required some grinding of the concrete. And I've got a concrete grinding wheel as part of my my angle grinder, so I was already set up for this. But it creates a lot of dust, so you really don't want to be recording in that environment. So let me explain what went on in those 3 hours. It was hell, is what it was. But it's over, thank goodness. I guess if you're going to work with self-leveling concrete, first piece of advice that I have for you is pay no attention at all to the pictures on the bag. They lie? Oh, do they lie? Instead, be a smarty. Read the instructions. And that was my mistake. So the pictures on the bag show the self-leveling concrete being poured out, and it looks like it just then, well, self-levels, right? That it flows smoothly. That's not quite true. Although I made, in all honesty, I made matters worse. They also show folks just spreading it around with a squeegee. You can move it around with a squeegee. That's not what you do to finish this product. So if you read the instructions, which I highly recommend, it'll tell you two things. One, mix this with a mixing paddle in a drill. That's what you do. And two, you finish it with a trowel. And that's okay. I figured that out after the 3 hours that you saw. And in truth, what we did wasn't great, but what we needed to do really was build up the level of the floor anyway. So as ugly as it was, it's all going to get covered up with properly poured self-leveling cement. So when I went and picked up all of these bags and thought about mixing it all up, I knew that it was rapid setting to begin with. I knew I was going to be working in about 92, 94 degree temperatures with bright direct sun. So this stuff is gonna set in a hurry. And I've got 20 bags of it, and it's just me and Patty. I figured I'm going to be hustling, and I want to get these 20 bags down. I was hoping to get them down in an hour, and as I told you, it took 3. And I figured I'll mix them up 2 at a time, and so I bought a mixing pan. I think you may have seen that in the time lapse, and a hoe, so that I could just really muscle it up and mix it up fast this way. And that's not what you do. That is not what you do, because you're going to wind up with some significant lumps in this stuff. And it's difficult to get self-leveling when your leveling concrete is full of lumps. So we got lumps. And Patty, bless her heart, tried to work those out as she was moving the stuff around with the squeegee. And that helped a lot. But we still were left with lots of lumps. So frustrated with this, I finally read the bag, and the bag said use a paddle. So I sent Patty off to the local hardware store and said, "Give me a mixing paddle for a drill." And I showed it to her on her phone so that she could carry it there and show it to them. They just speak Spanish. And sure enough, she came back with that. That was great. Slapped that sucker in my drill, and things got better. But then, as we went along, that mixing pan was just garbage. It was brand new that morning, and it fell apart after I mixed maybe 12 bags of cement in there, so 6 mixes, and then it cracked, and it was horrible. So at the very end, when we had maybe 4 bags remaining, we just that mixing pan was just worthless. So I think I threw it over the edge, uh, and we got a couple of buckets that we have for mops for mop water, and brought those up, and we mixed it by the half bag in these things, and it was, that's where we got the smoothest concrete. That's at the very end there. You see me working that in with a trowel, and that worked well. But we went from mixing 2 bags at a time to half a bag at a time. And there was simply no way that I could mix fast enough and pour fast enough and keep going to get this stuff all together in a good single pour. It was a nightmare, bad. So it all set up, and as I said, it was frequently quite lumpy. And I put the concrete grinding wheel in my angle grinder, and I just went and ground a lot of the big stuff down. And it was just here and there kind of stuff. And then, because I still needed more volume, I needed more elevation, because the drains were high, and I had to bring not only the low spots up, but the whole rooftop up. I wound up putting 15 more bags of concrete on this rooftop terrace, and to get an idea of how that works. And I think it would have worked just fine if I'd had, I don't know, 3 or 4 other people working with me. I might have been able to get away with that. Each with a bucket, a 5-gallon bucket, and each with a drill and a paddle mixer, because then I could, or whoever it is, somebody's got a trowel, and everybody else is just mixing, and pouring, and then you could kind of like painting with this stuff, maintaining that wet edge and bringing it back. And then I think we could have gotten a nice smooth surface in one go. I don't have the manpower. Didn't have the manpower. It's just me, and so I would pour maybe 3 bags, 3 buckets in a morning before it just got too hot to really do anything else with it. And then I'd come back the next day and pour again. And this self-leveling concrete is like pancake batter. Is probably the best way to describe it. So imagine trying to get a smooth surface here on the roof, as if you were pouring pancake batter on a griddle, because it's going to set up. As soon as you pour it, it's beginning to set, and it doesn't take long at all. It's stiffened up in maybe 10-15 minutes. It's quick. So what you want to do, mix up some pancake batter, throw it on the griddle, right? And then mix up some more pancake batter and throw it on the griddle, and mix it some more and throw it on the griddle, and you're going to wind up with if it overlaps, you're going to wind up with ridges, or you're going to wind up with gaps or whatnot. And that's what I had to work with, were these spots, here and there and there. Smooth across the surface of the pancake, but where the pancakes came together, it got to be a little sketchy. And that's what I did. I went just, pancake, all the way across the rooftop. And then the last bag or 2 was just filling in those spots. And then the grinder came out, and the grinder was, any place where they might have overlapped, I had to feather those edges. Or when you get to the drains, with the grinder, I would try to feather back. I would grind down to the original concrete, maybe actually a little further than that, and try and provide a little bit of slope. So I'm sorry, I guess, that you didn't get any of those videos, but as I said, it's quick. I mix up 3 bags, pour it, and then I'm just pouring. I'm dripping because it's so hot up here. It's the middle of August, and by 10 o'clock in the morning, 10:30 in the morning, you really don't want to be up here. And then once that's done, it's just a huge cloud of dust because I'm grinding this concrete away, and I'm not going to record in that. So I guess that's it. Again, apologies if this isn't if you didn't get the videos of all of this that you wanted, but Patty and I did. I think we did a bang up job. That little bit that you saw there of that time lapse. We were hustling. We worked our tails off. We put 20 bags down, and as I said, it did not go well. It was lumpy. It was ugly. At the end of it all, I was grumpy because with concrete you get one shot, and I wasn't happy with the shot that we took there. But as it turns out, with a little bit of smoothing it out with a grinder to begin with, and then just because we needed more concrete down on the rooftop anyway, that ugly stuff that was down below got covered with stuff that wound up being pretty smooth. All right, next video, which will complete the rooftop work, deals with some wiring and some other things, and then I'll give you the big reveal. There's a bit of a teaser behind me, I guess, but we'll give you the big reveal in a moment, or in the next video. And the rooftop terrace is in pretty good shape. There are a few things that I still want to do with it here and there, but it's lovely. It is really quite usable, and we are indeed enjoying it. As always, go ahead and like if you like it. Share it with people. If anybody asks, hey, what's Doc up to? What's Professor Winborn up to? Go ahead and turn them on the channel. If you know somebody who's thinking of mixing up bags of self-leveling concrete, by all means, send them my way. If you've got questions about what went on in all of this, leave me a comment, drop me a note, and if there are things that you want to chat about, by all means, put them in the comments. If there are things you want me to cover, put them in the comments. And if for whatever reason you really want to follow along and don't want to miss out on anything, ooh, heaven forbid, then go ahead and subscribe. I did get one comment on an earlier video about fishing, and I'll tell you. I guess I'll leave with this. We're quite happy here. It's a wonderful townhouse. It's apart from the few things that I'm working on, actually pretty comfortable, pretty cozy, pretty easy. It has the drawback of having been a short-term rental unit, and it still kind of lives like that. So it's Patty and I are enjoying it. We're making the best of it. It is not for us long term. We never intended it for it to be long term, but we also knew that we needed a place to land and sort of get established and establish a base, and then we could kind of move on from there. So that's what we're doing. But for me to go on and do things like I really would like to build my first boat that I can go out and fish in, and I've got an idea of building a dory, a 17-foot dory. I can't do that here. I don't have the room, don't have the space, don't have the tools. I can get the tools. I don't have a truck to haul the materials around in. So there are a few things that are just, it's not possible for me to do these things yet. I'm still very eagerly looking forward to them. But we're great. We're happy and healthy and all of the rest. It's wonderful living here. But I'm kind of spinning my wheels at this point. Patty's doing. I think she's making perhaps a bit more progress. It's kind of fun. She's working diligently on learning Spanish, and I'm listening to her as she goes along and practices. She's using some computer instruction stuff. I won't give you the names and whatnot, but she she's very good with languages. She speaks Danish, as some of you may know. She spent a year in Denmark as an exchange student in high school. So she speaks Danish, she speaks German, she speaks a little Japanese, she speaks French. But all of those are atrophying a little bit, but they're all there. And when we were back in Virginia and she was learning Spanish a bit, it was a hoot, because she would speak Spanish with a French accent. And so it's this sort of lilting Spanish, which is just absolutely wild to listen to. Now that she's got this computer programs that she can hear the pronunciation and she has to pronounce it back that way, she's dropping the French accent, and her pronunciation is improved tremendously. So she's beginning to become she's building a little confidence in terms of going out and speaking in Spanish. She's trying that out as best she can. She's finding some folks who are happy to kind of work with her there and encouraging and all the rest. So she's making progress in along those lines, and I'm very, very happy about that. Very proud of her. All right, I will I think cut this here. As I do, I will leave you with another time-lapse video. Now that we've got the cameras for that, and I guess I should apologize for some of the I guess the opening of this video and the changes in audio quality. We went from cell phones to dedicated video cameras with external mics and all of the rest. So I hope that things are much better at the end than they were at the beginning in terms of that quality. But now that we've got these, I'll leave you with another time lapse, one that I shot just a couple of days ago. Here's a sunset for you to enjoy on the way out. See you soon.